Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today for the Crime Lab, I'm going to be talking about Hadj Mohammed Mesfewi. I am guessing that's how you pronounce it. I am not the best with pronunciations of people that are not English, as that is my native language and I unfortunately don't speak any other languages. I'd love to learn more, but unfortunately at the moment I don't. So he was a killer born in Morocco, sometime between 1850 and 1879. Nobody's 100% sure exactly when he was born, so there's kind of a long timeline of when he could have been born. And from what records there aren't a ton, but the records that we have, he was actually a shoemaker and trader in Marrakesh. And a lot of people that knew him, that worked around him in the trading areas or the working areas, didn't really like him. They thought he was kind of weird, thought he was very mysterious. He seemed like he was hiding something, which come to find out he was. And he was actually, come to find out later, assisted by a 70-year-old woman named Anna, or Anna, A-N-N-A-H. So I'm pronouncing it how I would somebody named Anna. Mesfewi killed a lot of young women that would come to his shop to actually work for him. He would put a posting in a newspaper or wherever at the time they would post for jobs. A young woman would apply. He would be like, hey, I need you to dictate letters for me. And they would disappear. So in 1902, 10 women disappeared from the city overnight with absolutely no trace. Nobody knew where they went. There was no evidence really of anything happening to them. But they were disappearing, and the community at the time was thinking it was like a traveling caravan or traveling traders that were snatching them and leaving. Mesfewi actually, the way that he was able to make it look like there was no trace of them was because he would drug them to make sure that they couldn't fight him. And when there was one woman that disappeared, but people were actually able to trace her movements throughout the city. And they were able to trace her back to his shop. That was the last place that people saw her go before she disappeared. And so because of that, because his shop was related to her disappearance, police went and investigated. And what they found was shocking. So they found the remains of 20 women in a pit. So he had dug this massive pit below his shop and was just dumping them there. Once he killed them, did what he wanted to them, he would dump them there. And then during a further investigation of his property, because they're like, he can't have put all of these women there. There has to be more. So they expanded their investigation a little bit. And they found 16 more bodies in the garden, which, again, was shocking to them. Total of 36 people found. And at this point, nobody really had answers. They were like, what the hell? We knew he was weird, but 36 people going missing? Holy shit. So they arrested both Anna and Mesfewi. And Anna was killed under torture. She was tortured to get answers of, what the hell happened. Mesfewi confessed that he killed them for their money, what little money they had. And so in May of 1906, when about a month after he was captured, he was sentenced to be crucified. So, big wooden cross, and he was going to have to stand on a little platform, his arms raised out to his sides, and he was going to be essentially either nailed or have his arms strapped there. He was going to be hung essentially like that. And with crucifixion, if you don't die from the initial blood loss of, potentially having your hands and your feet nailed to these boards, because of how you're positioned, you'll essentially suffocate because your body is not meant to hold that position for that long of a time. So you essentially suffocate, which is horrendous. But considering this guy murdered 36 people, he deserved it, in my opinion. But due to the international outcry of them sentencing him to crucifixion, they decided to change it to he was just going to be beheaded. The initial public wanted him to suffer. They wanted him to suffer just as he had made his victims suffer. So every day he was led to the market square, given 10 lashes with a rod made from a thorny branch for 4 weeks, so roughly 28 days. And then due to the heinous nature of the crime, as a warning for everybody, he was walled up alive in the Marketplace Bazaar on June 11th of 1906. So his cell was made roughly 2 feet deep by 6 feet high. And then chains were attached to the back wall of his cell. And to make sure that he couldn't escape, and that he had to keep standing. So he was essentially chained to where he could not sit down, and he would all have to stand for the rest of his life until he died. And on the day that he was sentenced, or on the day that the sentence was carried out, so the day that he was going to be bricked into this cell, he was crying, shouting, begging for mercy, and actually fought the jailers as they were bringing him to his cell. And after he was chained up, when the bricklayers were sealing him into his cell, all the bystanders were just throwing filth at him, and offal, which is like excrement, guts, just very, very gross, vile stuff. They were throwing that at him. And once he was fully entombed, so his cell was sealed off, the crowd went silent and cheered every time that they heard him scream. They were so happy that he was in there. He could be heard screaming for 2 more days. And as I said, every time he screamed, people cheered. They were so happy. But he went silent on the 3rd day, and ultimately leading people to believe that he had died. Unfortunately, a lot of people were like, he died way too quickly, which is kind of true. And now, mind you, this was a different time, different part of the world than where I live. But normally, a person can go about a week with no water, no food. If you have water, you can last a lot longer. But some people thought he just died way too quickly, considering everything, and they were mad about it. But that is the very brief story of Mohammed Mesfewi. Like I said, there's not a ton of details on him. He is, like I said, a Moroccan serial killer that in less than a year, or actually knows a little more than a year, it was probably closer to 2 or 3 years, he killed 36 people. And although he claims that it was for money, I do have my doubts of why he actually did it.